for that elaborate introduction. Reminds me of a story of Henry Kissinger was once introduced, and the guy said, "Here's a man who needs no introduction." And Kissinger said, "Yes, but he enjoys it." So, for yours is better than the introduction I received. By the way, this luncheon was brought to you by the Democratic National Committee. All our Democrat friends that are responsible for, or perhaps it could be Russian hacking. You probably didn't know that I was sanctioned by Vladimir Putin. But Cindy and I can't go to Siberia again this summer for our vacation. So I thank all of you for being here. I thank you for welcoming me into it. It's hard to play favorites when you represent the entire state of Arizona, but there's something special about Prescott, Arizona.
Amen.
Not just that it was a state capital, not that its preservation of it has been so beautiful and wonderful, but I would remind those of you that are history buffs that when Barry Goldwater announced that he was running for the United States Senate back in 1952 at the Square, and he was there on election night, and when he ran for president, he made that announcement, and then on election night he was there, and every election I've been there on the night before the election. And maybe I should have figured out something, that that's the way you lose, but anyway, by the way, when I travel around the country, I ask people sympathy for the families of Arizona, speaking of Barry, because Barry Goldwater from Arizona ran for president of the United States and lost. Morris Udall from Arizona, he ran for president and lost. And Bruce Babbitt, our former governor, he ran for president and lost. I from Arizona ran for president and lost. It's pretty clear that mothers in Arizona don't tell their children that someday they can grow up and be president. So I just did something that is kind of fun. In this modern age of Twitter and Instagram and all the ways we have communicating with each other, I just went to the Square, had my picture taken in front of the statue of Bucky O'Neill, one of my genuine heroes. You all know about Bucky, and in front of the courthouse, and over at the saloon, and around, and we're tweeting all of that, and we're hashtagging it to the Prescott Historical Society. It'll be interesting to see the reaction, because we tweet to 2 million people. So maybe we will help with the visitors and tourism into Prescott. Can I say how much I appreciate the mayor? He and I do have a lot in common. In fact, one of them is that we were both lousy pilots. We have in common that both of us, our landings don't match the number of takeoffs. That is not exactly the ambition of aviators, I assure you. And can I say that one of the things that I admire about the mayor is that he came home, he resumed his life, and he also believed that we have a never-ending commitment to public service. And I think that's true of our mayor right here. Don't you all think? I want to assure you that someday he and I will be down at the old soldiers' home in our rocking chairs. When someone comes and blows the cavalry charge, we'll be ready to go again. So, and I want to thank Steve. Thank you for all your great service. I want to thank Marty for hers. I want to thank Billy for your continued service, and all of you for being here. There's so much going on in the world that it's hard for me to compress my remarks and yet do what I'd like to do, and that is respond to questions or comments or insults that you might have. First of all, obviously, we can't begin our conversation without talking about the tragedy at Baton Rouge. I can't add a lot to what has already been said about it. I can't give you a recipe for how we seem to cure this illness, this sickness that seems to affect people who want to take the lives of our brave and wonderful and loyal people who are defending us every day. I can't give you a good answer. I think some of it is obvious that we have to make sure that we respect everyone. We have to try to uplift our society. We have to provide a quality education. We have to provide people with an opportunity to better their lives. One of the things that we're seeing in America, unfortunately, is the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. 19 million Americans have stopped looking for work. We now have a lot of people, particularly blue-collar workers, who will never see a job again. We're seeing a great deal of unhappiness out there, and I think you're seeing it on both sides, in both parties. You're seeing feel the burn, and of course, Donald Trump never having run for public office again is now the nominee. Never having run for public office is now the nominee of the party. But this is not a happy time in America. And we're also, in the world today, seeing more turmoil, more refugees, more attacks than any time since the end of World War II. And that obviously was exacerbated by the fact that the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency and the Director of National Intelligence have both stated publicly that there will be more attacks in Europe and the United States of America. And I know that a lot of the focus is on gun control, and I understand that. But my friends, what just happened in Nice wasn't committed with a gun. What just happened in a couple of other places was not just done with a weapon. It was done by people who are so insane that they're willing to take the lives of other people. And we also have a place called Raqqa, which is the center of Islamic terrorism. And that leader, a guy named Baghdadi, by the way, Baghdadi was in our prison camp, a place called Camp Bucca in Iraq for 4 years. And the day that he was released, he told the Americans, he said, "I'll see you in New York." I have no doubt about what Mr. Baghdadi's ambitions are. He's not going to defeat the United States of America. He's not going to take them. But he sure is hell-bent on attacking the United States of America and everything we stand for and believe in. So we have a very unstable world, and we have a lot of challenges. And let me just say, if I could, about Arizona. I'm very proud of our state. I'm very proud of what we're doing. But I also think that we have some challenges, and one of them is Obamacare. I'm sure that you've already heard that more and more of the healthcare providers are dropping out, and that is giving people less and less choice. You might remember when the president was selling Obamacare, he said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. Obviously, that's not the case with tens of thousands of citizens of our state. It's a failure, and we need to make sure that we fulfill our commitment to all of you. I want to just talk about our veterans just for a second. I was just over at the DFW Post here in Prescott. Right now, our veterans are not receiving the care, as we all know, that they have earned and that we owe them. And we also can recall that the scandal began, unfortunately, at the VA hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, where there was 50 veterans on a non-existent waiting list who died while awaiting care, which was never forthcoming. And we've worked hard on trying to fix the VA. We have made some progress, but not nearly enough. One of the things we did was a thing called a choice card, where if you live more than 40 miles from the VA or you wait 30 days, you can take this card and go to the healthcare provider of your choice. I believe that every veteran should be able to do that. I'm proud of the VA and the work that they do on PTSD, on traumatic brain injury, on prosthesis and others. But I also believe that no veteran should have to wait. Just like people on Medicare have a choice and they can go to a healthcare provider. Finally, I still believe in America. I still believe that we're the strongest and best nation on earth. I just spent the 4th of July, as I did 9 out of the last 10 years, in either Baghdad or Kabul with the men and women who are serving in our military. The one I missed, by the way, was when, Cindy just reminded me, was when I was running for President of the United States. Maybe I should have gone to Kabul. Anyway, it's a great experience for me. I get a lot more out of it than the troops we visit. I always have a meal with our troops that are from Arizona. We do re-enlistment ceremonies, we do medals, we do town hall meetings. And whenever I get a little depressed, being around the men and women, it's over, it's too late. Serving in the military, then obviously I'm uplifted. So, look, all of the problems that I just described to you are severe and serious, and probably more serious in many ways, as experts have mentioned, since the end of World War II. But I'd like to give you a little hope. First of all, the United States of America is now energy independent. Is anybody here, there's a few, that remember what it was like to wait in gas lines for hours and hours to fill up your gas tank because OPEC had shut off the oil supply to the United States of America? We are energy independent. We will now be energy exporters. We may be able to get that energy someday to the living rooms in Eastern Europe to free them from their dependency on Russian oil. But what about the fact that we now have manufacturing technology which gives us more products at a lower price than we probably ever had before? That has been a good change. The bad change is that we need to focus on education and training so that people can take part in this new information technology which is running our economy. And that is of the utmost importance if we're going to give people an opportunity. Now this device right here is not invented anywhere but the United States of America. Not in China, not in Russia, anyplace else. And it is going to change the world. And it's going to change the world for the better, because this is information, information is knowledge, and knowledge is freedom over time. And by the way, there's many of you that think that I'm a little old. Well, let me tell you, I am a tech geek. See how big this is? Every 6 months she makes me buy a new one. It takes me 6 months to figure the goddamn thing out. Anyway, but I received recently, you'll find this hard to believe, but I recently received an award, a recognition from the Washington Post as being one of the top 10 tweets of the last 7 years. You'll find that hard to believe. Here's how it happened. When Obamacare was passed, as you may recall, and you didn't read the bill, but part of the bill was a tax on tanning beds. Now, probably not too many people here are patrons of tanning beds, but there was one person who was outraged by it, and was obviously a patron of tanning beds, and it was a famous actress by the name of Snooki. Some of you here don't recall who Snooki was. Let me remind you, she was on a very educational and high cultural program called Jersey Shore. But anyway, so Snooki was obviously not happy, so she put out a tweet that said, "I'm so mad at Obama for increasing taxes on tanning beds." And she said, "Senator McCain would never raise taxes on tanning beds because he's so pale." So I tweeted back, "You're right, Snooki, I would never raise taxes on tanning beds P.S. Be sure to wear sunscreen. That is recognized by the Washington Post. I knew you would be impressed with that. So, I'm telling you, the Democratic National Committee is... Are you a Democrat, sir?
No. All my life, John. Come on. You know that?
You must do a tea party or that. So I am very optimistic about America. I am optimistic and overjoyed to be in the city that has been voted the third most attractive place to live in the United States of America. And so, I can't be more proud. And I love it to come up here, and I will look forward on election night to coming back again. And in the tradition of one Barry M. Goldwater, who inspires me every single day of my life. And I've been very grateful for your support. And obviously, can I just summarize by saying, a lot of people have said, why don't you retire? Why don't you stop? Because you've done enough. My friends, as I began this conversation, this nation is in greater peril than it's been since the end of World War II. For a good half century, I've been involved in national security, both serving and as chairman of the Armed Services Committee. I know what needs to be done to keep this nation safe. I believe that I know how we can train, equip, and care for the men and women who are serving. I know how we can address this challenge to the world and to the United States of America, which will be a long, titanic struggle called radical Islamic extremism. And I believe that I can serve and help the people and hopefully the men and women who are serving in the military. So I thank you all. I'd like to respond to any questions or comments or insults that you may have. And I also would like for us to try here in Prescott to observe the old Chicago custom where they honor the dead so much they let them vote. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions while we're waiting? Yes, please. Could I also just mention also our valiant firefighters? Two things I want to mention real quick. Thanks to our valiant firefighters. We won't forget our Yarnell hotshots. We will never forget them. And I also want to thank, I want to thank the Muellers. We're going to have on August 27th, I believe, or yes, 27th, we're going to dedicate a playground in memory of Caleb Mueller. I will forget many things in my life, but I will never forget the memorial service that was held here by the people of Prescott in the name of a brave and wonderful American and genuine hero, Caleb Mueller. So I want to thank you for all you've done for the Mueller family. Yes, sir.
I'm Mark Gibson. That hotshot crew came and picked up the brush that I cut from my house every single year. And I gave them a supply of drinks to make sure that they had plenty of fluid replacement. I'm a former Special Forces medic, and my comment is that our civilization is under a concerted attack. They have a plan. They're working their plan. Their plan is working great for them. We have a tremendous manpower capacity that remains unused. We used to have a civil defense. And the civil defense people in World War II were the auxiliary that stood behind the military. They stood behind the firefighters. They stood behind the ambulance folks, and they stood behind the police. The U.S. military veterans are ready to serve. We're ready to join and be volunteers and be there to know how to operate the equipment. Be there to know how to operate the response to attacks like we've had on our police officers. We've got a capability to come forward and be of service. And we're organized, and we're technically knowledgeable, and we're still practicing the same things that we practiced when we served in uniform. And I think it's very important that we have a force of deputies that volunteer in the Sheriff's Department, a force of reserve police officers that step
There's a
forward.
question in here somewhere.
I want you to carry this idea forward, and let's mobilize all the veterans we got. We got good people, and we're ready to serve.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, and I agree with you, and it's going to take the good work of every American, and nobody is more qualified than our veterans. And I thank you, Mark, for that suggestion, and I thank you for your service to the country, and I thank you very much. Is there another question? Yes, sir. Ma'am.
One of the things that we're finding is that the Islamic the radicals are using social media and propaganda all over the world. So we're seeing the Islamic or radical inspired events take place. What is the United States, your office, doing to combat that in an actual social media plan or through the internet?
That's an excellent question, and the short answer is not enough. During the Cold War, we had an organization called Radio Free Europe, and we also had the Voice of America. And it penetrated, passed through the Iron Curtain. And I can't tell you the number of people that after the Iron Curtain fell, came out and said, I listened to the Voice of America, I listened to Radio Free Europe. Famous Jewish intellectual and dissident named Nathan Shransky. One time Reagan was given a speech and mentioned his name. He was in the Gulag. And after the wall came down, Nathan Shransky said, it spread through the Gulag like wildfire. He said, yeah, they beat us up some more, but nothing uplifted us more than hear Ronald Reagan speak out in our behalf. We're not doing enough to counter it. We're not doing enough in the way of Muslim clerics who will speak out against this perversion of their religion. This is not the Muslim faith, my friends, what they're doing. And we need to have a lot more of that. One of the reasons why in some of the Middle Eastern countries they're not speaking out, because they get killed. But we have got to mount a drive again. My friends, there's two kinds of attack. One is the kind that's orchestrated, and by the way, Baghdadi now is giving into the refugee flow, sending people, mostly young men, into the refugee flow with encrypted apps, and said, get to fill in the blank and contact us there. Then the other kind is the self-radicalized. That's the kind you are talking about. The young man, usually young men, some young women, but mostly young men, that get on the internet and they get self-radicalized, and then they go out and do the things that we have seen happen. And whatever the cause is, the effect is still the same. It's terrible. It's the taking of innocent lives where people are willing to give up their own lives in exchange for killing Americans or Belgians or French people or whoever. So we have to really look at what we are doing to counter this message that is spreading throughout radical Islam like a plague. And it isn't just in Iraq and Syria. We see it popping up in places like Libya, in places like Nigeria. We're seeing manifestations of it in the Philippines. We're seeing manifestations in Indonesia, in Malaysia. And the only way to counter it is to convince these people that this is not what their religion is all about. But I thank you for the question, because honestly, we're not doing nearly. You want to follow up?
I do. Is there a plan? And I know that during the Cold War era, there was an actual government plan to infuse the Cold War era, the communist era, with propaganda. Is the United States government working on that? This seems very reactionary, and it seems to me that we need a plan moving forward to use their own method, I guess.
We still have in Prague, in the Czech Republic, we still have the Voice of America and Radio Free Europe. But there's been so much disconnect and so much turmoil and so much lack of messaging that they have not been doing a good job. So the apparatus is there, but the message is not. And a number of us have been trying to work on it to make it more efficient. But you put your finger on the fundamental problem we're going to have to address if we are going to stop these wanton attacks. And again, if they don't do it with airplanes like they did at 9/11, if they don't do it with, or they're going to do it with trucks like you just saw in Nice, or they're going to do it with some weapons that they get a hold of, such as we saw in San Bernardino. They will do it. And so, in my view, just the fact that we are, this effort that goes on to ban weapons, well, the problem is a lot bigger than the weapons. The weapons don't fire themselves. People fire weapons.
Thank you.
With that,
Next question.
that
Senator, I have a question over here. Are we done?
okay,
One more?
yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Brannock. In the last 8 years, we've had a Democratic president, and several times in different election periods, we've changed out the House and the Senate to have more Republicans in office. And they've all promised us that they're going to, for instance, get rid of Obamacare, and they've made all these promises, and then when they've gotten into office, they haven't held or kept their word and stood up for the things that they were elected to do. And I just want to know, I've lost a lot of faith in the Republican Party, but I know there are a lot of good Republican people still in there. What are they doing to get back to being the strong Republican Party that we've all grown to love?
I think you have some people who agree with you. First of all, I could give you a lot of things that we have done, and I'm pleased, for example, that we did put a repeal of Obamacare on the president's desk, and he vetoed it. And it takes, as you know, according to the Constitution, 67 votes to override a veto by the President of the United States. We did do a number of things. We just passed the education reform bill that puts responsibilities and authorities back to the state and local education authorities rather than have it run from the Department of Education in Washington. We passed a significant reform bill in the form of defense authorization bill, and I could name to you several others. But the perception is reality, and in politics, perception is reality. And we haven't done a good enough job, particularly, very frankly, on spending. We have let spending increase the federal deficit where we are mortgaging our children and our grandchildren's futures. And we are going to have to address those aspects of our spending practices that would then encourage our voters that we are doing things for them. And I think that one of the things we should do is a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, because obviously we haven't been able to control our appetites. And then something like this Zika virus comes along, and it's a terrible thing, and yet we're going to have to spend $1 billion or so at least to try to counter the Zika virus. And I think there's hardly anybody in this room that wouldn't want to spend as much money as necessary to stop this horrible thing that's going on. But I can also tell you that we decided, the defense appropriators, I'm the chairman of the authorizing committee, they decided to spend money on some medical research that had nothing to do with defense. Some money, as much as $2 billion. So all I can say is that I hope that after this election, no matter who wins, that we Republicans should sit down together and say, okay, what do we need to do to regain the confidence of the American people? Two additional points. One, the approval rating of Congress is 14%. Is there anyone here who is in the 14% that approves of Congress? Please raise your hand. If you just raise your hand, please do not drive an automobile here in Prescott. You're a danger to yourself and others. I went through Sky Harbor Airport the other night, coming back from Washington. The guy ran up to me and said, hey, he said, anybody ever tell you look a lot like Senator John McCain? And I said, yeah. And he said, doesn't it sometimes make you mad as heck? So anyway, we have got to regain the trust of the voters. My friends, for the first time since polling was taken, and I don't remember what year that was, we now have two candidates for president of the United States that overwhelmingly the American people disapprove and don't trust. Disapproval and don't trust. My friends, when you don't trust the people you send to office, then you don't believe and find it very difficult to support what they try to do. So I believe that we have a lot of work to do in the Republican Party, but I also believe that we have a lot to do as far as our government is concerned. And finally, could I say, when Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, it was hope and change. Remember that? Hope and change. How's that working out? Anyway, I know I've taken too much time. Thank you for the question, and could I just say you reflect the dissatisfaction or the concern, Ann's concern, as a loyal Republican you feel about our party, which has given rise to the Tea Party and given rise on the other side, Bernie Sanders. I ran into a guy the other day, I said, who do you support? He said, Trump. He said, why? He's going to make America great again. I said, who's your second choice? He said, Sanders, of course. It is what it is. Mayor, thank you. Steve, thank you. Billy, thank you. Thanks for our elected officials, and special thanks to those that are running. Your willingness to serve is not unnoticed. I thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator. How are you?
Oh, you're glad for me he kept you waiting.
No problem. Yeah, just please stand right there.
Sorry.
So first question for you, Senator, why are you not at the GOP convention right now?
Because I'm here campaigning in Arizona for re-election, and I think it's far better use of my time campaigning and getting around my state than being in Cleveland. Besides, it's a lot nicer here than Cleveland.
Does it have any reason
As with all due respect to Cleveland.
Does it have any reason to do with presumptive nominee Donald Trump?
No.
Do you support Mr. Trump?
Yes.
One of the themes for the convention and for today is to make America safe again. Is that something that you stand behind, and is there something that you feel that we can do more in order to make that happen?
Well, we can defeat where all this comes from. It's from Raqqa in Syria, and we have no strategy nor plan to do that. And so we're either going to kill them there or we're going to kill them here. And they are motivating and in some cases orchestrating these attacks which are killing innocent Americans. 2009, there was no threat. 2009, when Obama pulled everybody out of Iraq, Al-Qaeda went to Syria and became ISIS. And we predicted at the time these things would happen. So you can attribute a great deal of this to the policies of the President of the United States.
And Senator, you talked about an election coming up in a few months, and how do you view this election?
Oh, I think anyone who predicts is doing so at great risk. No prediction that I've made so far has come true.
But all it's going to be a really important one, though. You know.
I think when you look at attacks on the United States of America, when you look at Vladimir Putin's aggression, when you look at the Chinese in the Pacific trying to exert control there,
and of course a continued stumbling economy, this could be, you could make a strong argument that this is the most important election in a long, long time.
Senator McCain, on the eve of the RNC in Cleveland, I know you said you're not going to attend, but any words for the presumptive nominee and Mr. Trump?
Do you still hold hard feelings against the comments he made about your status as a war hero?
Do I do what?
Do you still hold any hard feelings? Yeah.
Still? Since when did I ever?
Are you offended on me? Because his comments were offensive and a lot of people were upset that
Well,
he...
maybe it was offensive to you, like you're entitled to your opinion, whatever you want to be.
So you weren't bothered at all?
I was bothered, as I said at the time, by comments about fellow POWs who had nothing to do with politics, who served honorably because they were captured in combat. And that was what I had strong objections to then, still have strong objections to now.
Senator McCain, again, sir, just why again aren't you in Cleveland, if I may ask again, sir?
Sure, it's because I'm campaigning here in Arizona, which I announced months ago, and I'm traveling the state, and I would much rather be here in Arizona than in Cleveland. I have a very heavily contested race. My time is spent much better here than there.
And any thoughts, sir, as you know, with the RNC coming up and then for the presidential elections, any thoughts on the upcoming election, sir?
I'm confident. Got a lot of work to do. I'm very confident. We're doing well. Got a lot of support. But we're having a lot of fun.
Senator, you've gone to every RNC convention, I believe, since 1984, including when you were up for re-election. Why is this year different?
Because I need to campaign in the state as I described. And as I said, I don't know how many times I can say it to you. I am campaigning because I take nothing for granted, and my time is best spent here in Arizona than being in Cleveland.
At any point, do you plan on going on the campaign trail to support the presumptive nominee, Mr. Trump?
I intend to campaign here in Arizona up until Election Day. Okay?
Senator McCain, one last question, sir. Have you had any recent conversations with Mr. Trump at all? And if so, can we ask what they were?
I have had no conversations with Mr. Trump that I know of in many years. All right?
Thank you,
Mrs.
sir. Thank you.
McCain, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, but I'm enjoying campaigning with my husband. I love campaigning in the state. It's great fun, and I'm just grateful to be a part of Arizona and be a part of this race. I think we're going to have a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.